Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. Thank you. Sean caught a stray bird during the newscast there. It's just something we do behind the curtain here. You know, we're all in our own room, but we're separated by glass. So sometimes it's fun to wave someone down and they look at you like, what's the emergency? And then you just flip them the bird. That I don't know why. I'm a child. Never gets old. But also, I want to ask you a favor. Go to blessedbethefruit.org. The page is live. I just haven't linked it to like the front page of WBAP, and I haven't shared it out on like social media and stuff yet. I want you to look at it first. And I'm talking to you, Sean, but also you, the guy listening. Garrett, you're not doing anything over there. Just type it in, because when I was joking around with it before, I had blessedbethefruit.org redirecting to the page, and it wasn't working on some people's browsers. So I need to do some like testing of the code and stuff before I start publishing it and promoting it on social media. All right. That's the fun part. The not so fun part is what's the top story of the day. Another escalation, just one step closer, probably two steps closer to World War III. So coming back on the show, Dr. Jeff Brodeur, internationally recognized expert in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear issues, Rigaku Analytical Devices. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm getting tired of your expertise being so needed on this show. It seems every day this week there's been an escalation. What's the latest news on that theater?
Well, good day, sir, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, the road to war continues. So Germany's volunteered as a NATO platform for deployments. We talked about that just a little bit yesterday. Sweden and Finland are finally feeling the effects of an adversary on their border. It's interesting to note anyway, Sweden has not been in a combat scenario. They have not been in combat since World War I. That means they have no general officers. They have no soldiers, airmen, Marines that have combat experience. They are a member of NATO now, which means that it's going to be NATO coming to their rescue if needed. Finland is also shaken in their combat boots, but they've got a little more experience. They contributed to the NATO mission in Afghanistan just moments ago before I got on the air. It's reported that a North Korean general was killed in the Ukrainian area of operations. So I guess those ATACMS missiles, at least one of them hit its target. And about 24 hours ago, I think Russia retaliated with a surface-to-surface missile that is not just an ordinary missile, but it's also nuclear capable. I think everything that I've read was it had a conventional warhead on it, but still the message was sent.
Okay, so a lot of escalations have happened in the last 24 hours. Let's nail down the Sweden and Finland. They the only report I saw on that, without diving too deeply into it, they had told their citizens to be on alert. What does that mean?
Well, exactly. They don't have a system to prepare for war because they haven't done so in a number of wars. I think they're trying to, in a number of years, they're trying to figure it out. Mobilizing for war is not something you can do on the fly. Mobilizing for war, it requires the citizenry to bear arms, and you have to train, organize, and equip them. And it also requires that the industrial base ramp up, and instead of manufacturing paper clips, now they're bullets. Is an example. I don't know what it means. I think it's sort of in the Army we call it a warning order. And that is, okay, now they've got my attention. I need to figure out what I'm doing next. So it doesn't come as a complete surprise. But I don't think it's a coded message. I think it's just a warning to their citizenry. There are things coming next.
Does Finland foresee a possible invasion from the Russians, or are they just doing their NATO duty and helping out their allies?
No, I think they're both doing their duties. The challenge is that, we're talking about surface-to-surface missiles. If one of them goes astray, that's an attack on a NATO member, which triggers Article 5. That hasn't been done ever since 2001. And so, no, we call it, there's this, we have a great opportunity for a strategic miscalculation right now. because there are so many bullets flying through the air, and because borders are so close to one another.
So where is the territory at right now? Are we about where we started, or does Ukraine have more Russian territory? Does Russia have more Ukraine territory? What's the balance?
Yeah, so Russia has more territory, as I understand it, but they've paid a hefty price. Now, if we went to the ceasefire talks today, Ukraine would own much less sovereign territory than they did 2 years, 1,001 days ago, right?
I guess it is that long. Are we expecting any kind of peace talks or attempt at diplomacy anytime soon?
Well, we're on the road to escalation right now. That sort of always happens before somebody sues for peace. And that's because I think many times when you're on the road to escalation, calmer minds try to develop what we call off-ramps. And that's an opportunity to de-escalate it. And that's the opportunity that's presenting to us right now, as each one responds to the other's provocative activities. But who knows? I mean, this thing, again, strategic miscalculation could generate this World War III scenario you keep mentioning.
All right. Well, thank you very much for helping us keep an eye on such things. Your expertise is held in high regard here on The James Show. Dr. Jeff Brodeur, Rigaku Analytical Devices, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, that's not very fun, but, World War III, where's the party at? Are we going to have World War III parties? I'm just astonished at how little we care that we're just floating missiles into Russian territory, American missiles going into Russian territory. We're like, yeah, but who gets to go to the bathroom where? I mean, that's kind of a big story, too. But, I mean, can we have we can talk about the bathroom story and World War III, too, right? Like MSNBC, Fox News, nothing about either one. They're both talking about Matt Gaetz, which is what we're going to talk about next, too. Donald Trump's cabinet was growing, but it got a little smaller. His recent pick for attorney general has withdrawn. Uh-oh. This is bad news. Details coming up next on The James Show. You got any theories behind what's going on? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. All right, I've got some legal questions, so I called my legal buddy to be on the show again. Jeremy Rosenthal's back on from TexasDefenseFirm.com. And let's talk some death penalty. Jeremy, you a big fan of the death penalty?
The death penalty it's a remedy that can't be taken back. So if you're going to impose it, just be right about it. Hard question, pretty divisive, but that's where I'm going to stand.
Yeah, that's what this show's all about, divisive questions. So a couple things that put this on my mind. I'm going to weave two stories together. One, Laken Riley, that's the high-profile one. The illegal immigrant pulled a jogger off the trail, tried to rape her, ended up having to kill her because she wouldn't stop fighting, that punk. So he's found guilty, and he gets life without parole. I see that, and I think, well, if we're that sure, then give him the damn death penalty. The other case that I'm weaving into this is Susan Smith, something that happened in my childhood, but I found it to be just particularly horrifying. She killed her own kid, complete psychopathic behavior. She was sick of being a mom. So she just straps him in the backseat of the car, drives it into a lake, and then walks to the nearest gas station and tells this goofy story about how she was carjacked by a black guy. Turns out she did it herself. Now, she was up for parole, and I'm thinking, why hasn't she already gotten the chair or the injection or, the death penalty or whatnot? And am I alone in this? Is there a lot of people that want to expand the death penalty?
By and large, the movement is probably, I would say, going the other way. I don't know that it's because of leniency, though. I think it's going the other way because of certainty. You've got the Innocence Project, and we're yanking folks out of jail 10, 20, 50 years, 30 years after the fact based on a speck of DNA. And I think that, so I don't know that public sentiment is really advancing one way or the other based on, look, what does the death penalty solve or not solve? But I do think that if you are seeing a push, it's away from the death penalty, again, due to the certainty aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of the Innocence Project because, their job isn't necessarily to go find people who are innocent and make sure that they don't have the death penalty, happen to an innocent person, as much as they're death penalty advocates. So they'll go out and try and poke a hole in any death penalty case, whether or not the guy, they're not really concerned about whether or not he's guilty or not. They're whether or not they consider it a victory if they can destroy a case.
Well, I'll tell you this much. So, James, you hit on some areas that are close to my criminal defense lawyer heart. I'll tell you this much. When it comes to the Innocence Project, it is a nonprofit, the likes of which the criminal defense bar has never really seen before. I mean, they raise a lot of money, and they've got a lot of really good lawyers. It's actually, I'll tell you this much, and say what you will, it is really, really hard to get the Innocence Project to pick up a case. They will only take cases that they know or are really darn sure that they can exonerate on. It is in Texas. It's really hard once a person is convicted and sent in. And again, the Innocence Project focuses on sex assault cases. They focus on murder cases. They focus on cases where they know they're going to have things like DNA evidence. When you're talking about a whole host of other types of cases that might just have, say, eyewitness testimony or other issues, there's just no mechanism for anybody in prison to really do anything about that. It's prohibitively expensive. And it's, you can tell I've got an opinion or two or feelings I have to feel about these things.
Well, something I've learned by reading up on these guys and looking into the situation is there's a human tendency for witnesses who at the time when the trial's going on and they're testifying and they're under oath and they swear to God they're telling the truth, they tell the story that ends up putting a guy away for life. And then if you find these people 10, 15, 20 years down the line and they know that the guy's life is on the line, how many people retract their statements, or not even retract, just say, well, I'm 90% sure that happened. And they say, well, I guess we got to throw this whole thing out. There's a tendency for people to modify their testimony, what they saw, if they know the guy is going to die because of it.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this much. The courts can only control one thing. If we really, really think about it, did you get a fair trial? Was the first, you don't have a right to try your case over and over and over again until you win. You have the right to a fair trial. And what the courts are going to analyze 10 and 15 years after the fact, even in the light of somebody who's retracting a statement, the courts are going to say, well, hold on. The first question we're going to answer is, are you innocent? Not are you guilty? Did you get a fair trial the first time around? Because if you got a fair trial this first time around, there's only really a select number of categories that we're going to flip your case. Hiding evidence, right? If you have, for instance, junk science, or if you have new and novel DNA. The Court of Criminal Appeals, again, we have two Supreme Courts in Texas. One handles only the criminal and one handles the civil. The Court of Criminal Appeals, even in cases where people say, no, I didn't get sexually assaulted, no, this didn't happen to me, will still deny actual innocence claims based on that for the reason that you just said. Because, look, yeah, the guy may just be retracting this because we didn't realize you were going to get in this much trouble. Completely understandable stuff.
Your thoughts on Matt Gaetz stepping down?
Man, that guy was going to have a really brutal time trying to get through there. And I hate saying that I'm right about things. Actually, that's not true. I love saying that I'm right about things.
Feels good, doesn't it? Right.
Feels good. No, I mean, I've been telling folks that I think that he may, if he doesn't get rejected, he may just say, you know what, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on this. I'm going to, for the sake of the administration, I'm just going to sort of step aside. And again, Donald Trump, the art of the deal, maybe he's going to throw out somebody who everybody's going to go crazy on, and then he's going to say, hey, actually what I really meant to do was Ken Paxton, this by comparison much less controversial guy, right? So maybe you see a play like that. I don't know that was Trump's intent all along, but it was certainly stacking up against Matt Gaetz.
All right. Well, great conversation. Thanks for coming on again. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. What kind of lawyer you do, sir?
I am a criminal defense lawyer through and through, and thank you for asking, James. You are always a kind gentleman.
What's the real word for that, so I don't have to say lawyering the next time?
Lawyering's fine. That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's what I am.
I was trying to turn that into like a I don't know, a gerund. What would that be called? A noun with ing on it. Lawyering. I'll work on it. I'll get the thesaurus. We'll get ready for the next one. All right, your thoughts. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, not only am I pro death penalty, I'm for expanding the damn thing. What's the point of having this if we don't use it like more than once every 5 years or so? I mean, Texas is exceptional in that regard. It's one of the reasons I love this state so damn much is we don't have any problems killing bad people. These are horrible people. Kill them. That's what we're supposed to do. The world's better off. You've given up your right to keep breathing, sir. The other thing is it's along the same lines. It's the stupid bike lane that's right outside of my work here. Listen, I'm from Buck Tussle, and in the country, there's no such thing as bike lanes. No one even proposes it. You can't have a bike lane to go from point A to point B. You'd be exhausted by the time you got there. It's like a 40-minute round trip to the nearest gallon of milk where I grew up. So, no, bike lanes are something we see you people argue about on TV in the big cities, and we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And now that I got to work next to one, it pisses me off so much. Oh, man, I forgot to tell you yesterday. I saw... You're not going to believe this. I saw a guy on a bicycle in the bicycle lane yesterday. So that puts it up to, check this out, that's 6. I've been in this studio every day looking out the window at this stupid bike lane from the 5th floor of our little building up here. Been watching it 6 times since January 1st. That was the day the James Show started here. 6. You know how many eclipses we've had since then? 5. The likelihood of a dude on a bicycle actually using off the concrete barriered bicycle lane. It's not like they just painted a stupid stick bicycle in a regular lane and you can still use it. It is segregated away. There's one on each side for bikes on a busy street downtown where God knows we need the space. We need the parking. We need that more than the 6 bicyclists. 6 that have gone through there. And we're almost through the 11th month. That's like it's like one every 2 months. We've blocked off an entire lane of traffic, one going each way on this street over here for 6 bicycles. The dude yesterday, he wasn't even wearing a shirt. So he's just recreating. Like, he's not going to work. He's not like a courier delivering some important legal documents, or I've got to depose someone, or got to serve someone with papers. It's not like a Jimmy John's delivery bicycle guy. He is just doing it for recreation. We've done all that. We spent millions of dollars and choked off traffic and done all this promotion and talking about bike lanes and green energy, and it's ride your bike to work day, and all this stuff. It's 6 people. It's barely more frequent than an eclipse. Just amazed at how these bad ideas they don't just survive. They grow, they thrive. Like DART's been one big giant disaster, one after another. Every one of these public transportation projects is a huge embarrassing failure. And what do? Let's build more. Let's build one all the way to Houston. Let's have a big line of failure all the way to Houston. Because the other thing you don't see, if I look out the other side of this building, is the DART station where the trains exchange for the American Airlines Center. There's a big stop there. And it's like the Truman Show. It's just empty trains all damn day. One will go north, and then here comes another train. It's empty. It'll go south. It'll stop. No one will get on. No one will get off. And then the doors will close, and it'll just keep going. And it's all just like a theater. It's all just a show. And I'm not saying there's never anyone on there. During rush hour, you might get it to like 1/4 capacity for a couple of rides there. And that's just for like 2 hours out of the day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. The rest of it just empty trains back and forth. Zoom, zoom. And you got people like, we should build this all the way to Houston. It's like, you are so dumb. You know nothing of what you're talking. Get a lawn chair and come sit next to either the bike lanes or the train tracks. And you tell me if this is a good idea. Just look at it for 8 hours. Just do one of my business days. And it'll blow your mind. Like, what a horrible waste this is. Absolutely horrible. And what are we arguing about? Turn on the TV. Look at what they're arguing about. We're on precipice of World War III with Russia, and they're talking about Matt Gaetz might have had a three-way with a 17-year-old in Florida in 2007. This is an important story. Now, I know some of you are giddy about the ratings plummet. CNN's been taking a big beating, but MSNBC, I've had a few people share that story with you. And listen, I do not delight necessarily in the demise of MSNBC. I like to see the natural workings of the market when you go totally psycho, calling everybody Hitler and fascist and whatever, and then you go meet with the Hitler fascist guy. You're going to turn away a big chunk of your audience. After they admitted on Monday's show that they went and met with Donald Trump, their audience was so mad at them that on Tuesday, their already just terrible ratings went down 38% from there. We almost have more people that listen to WBAP, and we're just on one stick. Well, I guess an AM and FM channel. We're just on in one market. We're just blasting here out of Dallas. So, about 100-mile range radius from where I'm sitting right now. That's all we have access to. And we get about the same amount of people that are consuming our content as MSNBC. Wow. And that's not what it was a week ago. That's not what it was on Monday. That's not what it was 5 years ago. That's for sure. But if you want to see what happens, if you just go totally off the loony deep end, MSNBC is a good example. But the problem that they have is being down the middle of the road is not what you want to see. People say, you can go do a survey. Hey, would you like to see biased news? And everyone will say no. And then you could turn on the TV and see what channels they go to. They go to biased news. Right-wing people like Fox and Fox Business, maybe Newsmax, maybe some of these newer guys. And the lefties, they've got all the networks and MSNBC and CNN and the usual suspects there. But nobody actually watches by unbiased news because it exists. Do you know which channel I'm talking about? The one and only unbiased news outlet on cable? C-SPAN. It's boring as hell, isn't it? But they don't put any spin on it. They don't give you any opinion. They don't tell you anybody's Hitler. They don't tell you anybody's a fascist or anybody's coming for your kids and they want to cut your son's undercarriage off, or, they just give you here's what they said today. This here is the House Ethics Committee hearing announcing their summary on the investigation into Matt Gaetz. And then they'll cut to some dude speaking in the most bland, boring terms possible. You don't like unbiased news, but that's what real news is supposed to look like. Real news is supposed to be boring. Real news is not supposed to be sensational. You're not supposed to be angry after watching it. But we're seeing MSNBC, poor bastards, they're having to compete with too many people. You can't do unbiased news, so they chose lefty news. And there's just so many butts to sit down there. I mean, you got CNN, you got ABC, CBS, NBC, and you just out crazied them. They can't stand you anymore. We'll see if their ratings bounce back. We'll see. We'll see if they get spun off because Comcast is talking about taking them and CNBC and a couple other channels, and they're going to make it their own company. So that's kind of the equivalent. Like if you're on a long transatlantic boat ride in revolutionary times, and they're like, no, we don't think that you have smallpox. You're just gonna ride in this other boat, and we'll just tow you behind the big boat. No, we're not scared of you at all. They're just gonna let them go. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Bill Dindy, the financial strategist, is going to come on talking about the horrible inflation that's going to hit your wallet for Thanksgiving. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right, sports fans, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. And Prize Picks, if you're not really good at it, if you're new to the game, they have a lot of ways to just sort of entrance ramp you in there. And what you do is you make a lineup of 2 to 6 players, and they give you some stats on the players. You pick more or less. And so, if you get one right, okay, that's fine. But if you get 2 right, boom, money happens. Well, here's an easy way to get in. There's a game that's happening Thanksgiving evening. Tyreek Hill's going to be on the field for the Dolphins. And if he gets 1 yard, that's not a joke. If he gets 1 yard, he's going to be a winning pick for you because his stat line is at 0.5 yards. So if he goes out there and never catches anything and you pick more on it, then you don't get anything. But you're going to pick more and he's going to get 1 yard and half your lineup's already a winner right there. All you got to do is get one more player right and you can turn a little bit of money into a lot of money. If you want to start with a little bit of cushion, download the app, use promo code WBAP with your first $5 play. I'll give you $50 in promo cash that you can then play with and turn into some real money. Download the Prize Picks app, use promo code WBAP, take advantage of the Tyreek Hill Thanksgiving giveaway, and you'll thank me later. Prize Picks, run your game. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. My next guest, a well-known financial strategist here in North Texas, Bill Dendy, back on the James Show. And listen, Thanksgiving's just next week, right around the corner. Inflation taking another bite out of Thanksgiving. Ha ha, terrible pun intended.
And it does appear that way. They show, according to a Lending Tree survey, that the average host is going to spend 19% more this year than they did last year. But as we dig into the details of that survey, it looks like the actual price of the turkey has gone down some, and the price of some of the fixings have gone down some. But butter, cream, and cheese, those are higher. And people feel comfortable if they still have their job. Layoffs are not as prevalent. People feel comfortable they're going to have their jobs throughout the holiday season. So it seems like the average host is spending more this year than they did last year.
So 19% far outpaces what the official inflation rate has been for the dollar itself. And you're pointing at just a few commodities.
That is correct. And so the survey is coming out saying people are spending about 19% more. It's not all because of the inflation. In fact, on some of the commodity items, the cost has actually gone down. Remember the bird flu epidemic that took out the turkeys a few years ago? Well, it seems like the demand for turkey didn't pick back up. So it turns out that the turkey prices are actually down about 5%. But what's happening is that people are spending more during this Thanksgiving holiday season than they did last year because they're having more lavish events. They're spending more on decorations. They're spending more on more side items. They're doing more than they've done before because of this feeling of overall prosperity. And that's actually a positive sign maybe, but that by itself is inflationary in nature.
You know, you're a financial strategist. I remember when I made my first budget in my 20s, I forgot to count things like holidays and birthday presents and Christmas presents. How much do you recommend someone spend or budget for a holiday like Thanksgiving?
Well, that's the first key, to budget. Know what you can afford to spend. Unfortunately, this is the time of year that people start the bad, long path of regret. They feel like they want to do a little bit extra this year for Thanksgiving. They want to bring, better bottles of wine if they are not hosting, or they want to do a bigger spread. And then it just bleeds on into Black Friday, which bleeds into the Christmas and Hanukkah shopping. And for a lot of folks, they feel compelled that they must spend money during this time period to meet the expectations of others. And oftentimes that leads to that regret January, February, and March because they didn't plan a budget. They didn't know what they could afford to spend. And what you afford to spend, it's not a simple mathematical calculation. It is based upon what your lifestyle is and what your overall needs are. But most people never even ask that question. They don't start off with a budget. And studies have shown that those who start off with a budget saying we're going to spend no more than $30 a year for the friends and cousins, and no more than $100 a year for this year for the spouses, they tend to have better results than those who just allow their fantasies to take over when they start shopping, and then they start shopping for everybody on their list. They expand their list to include the mail carriers, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not against mail carriers, but some people go way beyond what they anticipate because they didn't plan it, they didn't budget it, and then they have that post-holiday regrets.
Well, you know what a lot of people, myself included, don't like about budgeting? It's the financial equivalent of going on a diet. And it just lets you know that once you're on a budget, in the future, tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, you're going to be depriving yourself of these little wants. They're not needs, but you walk around and you treat yourself, and maybe I will just get an extra drink at the gas station, or I will to spend a little bit more on this vacation or this Christmas present, and it's sort of the same effect. You don't want to go on a budget because it's like going on a financial diet.
We need to call it something else, because you're exactly right. And when you go see your health professionals, they'll oftentimes say it comes down to diet and exercise. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you just give me a pill? Diet and exercise, that's really tough. It sounds like budgeting. But just like if you've ever been into that routine, I must confess I don't do it as often as I should or like I should. But for those who love to work out and those who love to stay in shape, it's no longer that thing that's drudgery. They start missing if they're not putting the hours in, if they're not doing the work. They feel better. They sleep better. Everything is better in their life because they had some self-discipline in that area. And after a while, it feels uncomfortable to not do it. Kind of like my youngsters brushing the teeth. After a while, it just feels weird if you don't brush your teeth in the morning or at night. You just don't feel good the rest of the day. Well, I think that we just need to come up with another thing. And on TikTok, the younger generation is called loud budgeting, that they are keeping in mind the goals they really want. And so when they don't go out with their friends, when they don't spend money on things that seem more superfluous, they're saying, because I am going to have that vacation in Cozumel, or because I'm going to help the needy family in South Dallas, or because I'm going to do this. And they loudly proclaim what is most important to themselves, and that's the reason they don't feel like they're depriving themselves when they don't go to that, have that coffee or that snack or that drink on the way home.
All right. alicorninvestmentmanagement.com, still your website?
It is. Alicorn. It's a unicorn that flies.
So you actually have an office in Bug Tussle. There's one in Dallas. There's one in Bug Tussle. There's one in Midland. I had no idea. That's my hometown.
Love it.
All right. There he is, Bill Dindy, alicorninvestmentmanagement.com. If you got any comments on the cost of Thanksgiving, 800-288-9227. Stick around. We're going to talk about that first trans woman got elected to Congress. We have then a real woman in Congress wants to pass a rule to keep the fake woman out of the real women's bathroom. And man, this got real. This escalated hard, really quick. You'll hear from both sides on the debate coming up on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.